Hello, everybody. Like and subscribe. Drop a like and a subscribe. Like and subscribe, dudes. Let's get on it. Like and subscribe. It's not hard to do. Check out my channel too. You know you want to.
the appointed minister cannot dispose of the recommendation by UKSP. Indeed, given the seriousness of these issues and the significance of the appointment, I simply do not accept that Foreign Office officials could not have informed me of UKSP's recommendation while also maintaining the necessary confidentiality that vetting requires. There is no law that stops civil servants sensibly citing UKSP recommendations while protecting detailed sensitive vetting information to allow ministers to make judgments about or explain matters to them. So let me be very clear. The recommendation is that Mr. Mandelson should have been shared with me before he took up his post. Mr. Speaker, let me make a second point. If I had known before he took up his post that UKSP recommendation was that developed vetting clearance should be denied, I would not have gone ahead with the appointment. Mr. Speaker, let me now move to September 2025, because events then and subsequently show with even starker clarity the opportunities missed by Foreign Office officials to make the position clear. Mr. Speaker, on September the 10th, Bloomberg reported fresh details of Mandelson's history search, and it was then clear to me that Peter Mandelson's answers to my staff in the due diligence exercise were not truthful and unsatisfactory. I also changed the direct ministerial appointment process, so full due diligence is now required as standard, where risks are identified, an interview must be taken pre-appointment to discuss any risks and conflicts of interest. A summary of this was provided at this point in the meeting. I also made clear that public announcements should not now be made until security vetting is completed. Mr. Speaker, in light of the revelations of September last year, I also agreed with the then Cabinet Secretary, Sir Chris Warmall, that he would carry out a review of the appointment process in the Peter Mandelson case, including the vetting. He set out his findings and conclusions in a letter to me on the 16th of September. He advised me in that letter, and again I quote, "The evidence I have reviewed leads me to conclude that appropriate processes were followed in both the appointment and withdrawal of former HMA officers." When he was asked about this, Mr. Speaker, last week, the then Cabinet Secretary was clear that when he carried out his review, the Foreign Office did not tell him about the UKSP recommendation that developed vetting clearance should be denied for Peter Mandelson. I find that astonishing. As I said out on this issue, I do not accept that I could not have been told about the recommendation before Peter Mandelson took up his post. I absolutely do not accept that the then Cabinet Secretary, an official, not a politician, when carrying out his review, could not have been told that UKSP recommended that Peter Mandelson should be denied developed vetting clearance. It was a vital part of the process that I had asked him to review. Clearly, he could have been told, and he should have been told. Mr. Speaker, on the same day as the then Cabinet Secretary wrote to me, so that's the 16th of September 2025, the Foreign Secretary and the then Permanent Secretary of the Foreign Office, Sir Ollie Robbins, provided a signed statement to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee. The statement says, and again I quote, "The vetting process was undertaken by UK security vetting on behalf of FCDO and concluded with DV clearance being granted by the FCDO in advance of Lord Madison taking up post in February." It went on to say, and again I quote, "Peter Mandelson's security vetting was conducted to the usual standards set for developed vetting in line with established Cabinet Office policy." Mr. Speaker, very clear to the House. This was in response to questions which included whether concerns were raised, what the Foreign Office's response was, and whether they were dismissed. Mr. Speaker, that the Foreign Secretary was advised on and allowed to sign this statement by Foreign Office officials without being told the UKSC had recommended Peter Mandelson be denied both development and clearance is absolutely unforgivable. This is a senior cabinet member giving evidence to Parliament on the very issue in question. Mr. Speaker, in light of further revelations about Peter Mandelson in February of this year, I was very concerned about the fact the development and clearance had been granted. Not knowing that, in fact, UKSD has recommended denial of development and clearance, I instructed my officials to carry out a review of the national security vetting process. As I set out, I do not accept that I could not be told about UKSD's denial of security vetting before Peter Mandelson took up his post in January 25. I do not accept that the then Cabinet Secretary could not be told in September 2025 when he carried out his review of the process. I do not accept that the Foreign Secretary could not be told when making statements to the Select Committee again in 2025. But Mr. Speaker, on top of that, the fact that I was not told even when I ordered a review of the UKSB process is frankly staggering. And I can
Hello, hello, hello. Monkey fish breath.
for the review into security weapons and ultimately to the British people. And I commend this statement to the House.
His reputation is at stake. Everyone is aware it is finally time to retreat. Earlier today, Mr. Speaker, Downing Street admitted that the Prime Minister inadvertently misled the House. The Prime Minister is not
Oi, oi. Like and subscribe or stick your up your bumhole.
he has a duty to correct the record at the earliest opportunity. The Prime Minister says he only found out on Tuesday that Peter Mandelson failed the security vetting. The earliest opportunity to correct the record was Prime Minister's question on Wednesday, almost a week ago. This is a breach of the ministerial code. Under that code, he is to be as open as possible with Parliament and the public in answering questions today. So let me start with what we do know. We know the Prime Minister personally appointed Peter Mandelson to be our ambassador to the United States. We know that Mandelson had a close relationship with a convicted paedophile. We know that he had concerning links with Russia and China, links that had already raised red flags. We know that the Prime Minister announced the appointment before vetting was complete, an extraordinary and unprecedented step for the role of US ambassador. The Prime Minister says that it was usual for this because it was a political appointment. So I will remind him and the rest of the Labour front bench who were heckling that Peter Mandelson was a politician who had been sacked twice from government for lying. That meant he should have gone through the full security process. And we also know, finally, Mr. Speaker, that when Peter Mandelson failed the security vetting, he was allowed to continue in the role with access to top secret intelligence and security information. This goes beyond propriety and ethics. This is a matter of national security. So let me turn to what we do not know. We still do not know exactly why Peter Mandelson failed that vetting. I do not know what risks our country was exposed to, and we do not know how it is possible that the Prime Minister said repeatedly that this was a failure of vetting, went on television and said things that were blatantly incorrect, and not a single advisor or a single official told him that what he was saying wasn't true. At every turn, with every explanation, the government story has become murkier and more contradictory. It is time Minister told me at PMQs in September 2025 that full due process was followed in this appointment. We now know that in November 2024, Lord Pace, the then Cabinet Secretary, told him this process required security vetting to be done before the appointment. He did not mention any of what Lord Pace said in his statement earlier. So, first question, does the Prime Minister accept that when he said on the floor of the House that full due process was followed, this was not true? Secondly, on the 11th of September last year, journalists asked his Director of Communications if it was true that Mandelson had failed security vetting. These allegations were on the front page of a national newspaper.
Hello, everybody.
Not deny the story.
Up your bollocks.
3. Will the Prime Minister
We're a Prime Minister.
on the dispatch box his words
Please
last
stand up. Please stand
No
up.
one in number 10 was aware before Tuesday that Mandelson had failed his vetting. The Prime Minister says he's furious that he wasn't told the recommendations of the vetting. Yet on the 16th of September, a Foreign Office Minister told Parliament, and I
All right,
quote,
people.
the national security vetting process is rightly independent
So
of
you
ministers.
get, you only get one little quick look at me.
Findings other than the final
Because you're not paying.
This was government's official process. So why is the Prime Minister so furious that it was followed? On the 4th of February 2026, the Prime Minister, good question, Mr. Speaker, on the 4th of February 2026, the Prime Minister told me from the dispatch box that the security vetting he had received had revealed Mandelson's relationship with Epstein. How could he say that if he had not seen the security vetting? And finally, Mr. Speaker, Entreperneur is a Russian defense company closely linked to the Kremlin and Vladimir Putin's war machine. Was the Prime Minister aware before the appointment that Peter Mandelson had removed the director of that company long after Russia's invasion of Crimea? Mr. Speaker, everyone makes mistakes. It is how you face up to those mistakes that shows the character of a leader. Instead of taking responsibility for the decisions he made, the Prime Minister has thrown his staff and his officials under the bus. This is a man who once said, I will carry the can to mistakes of any organization I lead. Instead, he has sacked his cabinet secretary. He has sacked his director of communications. He has sacked his chief of staff. And he has now sacked the permanent secretary of the Foreign Office. All of these constitutions is so lacking in curiosity that he chose to ask no questions about the vetting process. He asked no questions about Mandelson's relationship with Epstein. He asked no questions about the security risk Mandelson posed. Apparently, he didn't even speak to Peter Mandelson through his appointment. It doesn't appear that he asked any questions at all. Why? Because he didn't want to know. He had taken the risk. He had chosen his man. Westall had to follow. It is the duty of the Prime Minister to ensure he is telling the truth. Or does the Ministerial Code not apply to him? And only holding the Prime Minister to the same standard to which he held others. On the 26th of January 2022, the Right Honourable Gentleman said to a previous Prime Minister at this dispatch box, if he misled the House, he must resign. Does he stand by those words, or is there one vote for him and another for everyone else?
Mr. Speaker, let me respond to those points. Firstly, when I found out what had happened on Tuesday evening last, I wanted to have answers to the question who made the decision to recommend to give clearance on developing contrary to the advice, why that was done, and who knew about it, so I could provide the information to the House, Mr. Speaker. That is the exercise that's been conducted since Tuesday evening of today, so that I could come here today to give the full account to the House, which I've just set out. Mr. Speaker, she asked me about developing security clearance after the appointment. I set out that wasn't me saying that. I read out the evidence of the former permanent secretary about that and the former cabinet secretary in relation to that. And I think the quotes that I've given to the House are clear enough in relation to that. She also asks why Peter Mandelson failed. Mr. Speaker, it's important to make a distinction between the information provided to the review and the recommendation. The information in the review must be protected and has been protected, because otherwise the integrity of the entire system will fall away. But the recommendation doesn't need to be protected and should not have been protected. Mr. Speaker, in relation to her questions, in relation to the answer about the review process, that was the information that I had when I put before the House, and it was confirmed to me by Sir Chris Warner, because in September I asked him to conduct a review of the process to assure me that the process was correctly carried out. He did that and wrote to me on the 16th of September, giving me that his conclusion. In relation, Mr. Speaker, to reports in the media, number 10 was repeatedly asked about the facts surrounding Peter Mandelson's clearance, and was assured that the proper process was followed in that case. Mr. Speaker, in relation to those in number 10, let me give the answer. Nobody in number 10 was informed about UKSB's recommendations. Mr. Speaker, to be clear and for the record, the Cabinet Office Permanent Secretary did receive information recently and then sought the necessary and legal advice. Once those checks were completed by the Cabinet Office Permanent Secretary, I was told, that is in the last 2 weeks or so, that was entirely the right to legitimise the first opportunity. It was the right procedure to follow my officials. Mr. Speaker, in relation to why I was furious about the process, for the very reason, Mr. Speaker, I strongly believe I should have been given this information at the very outset. I strongly believe there were repeated times when I should have been told I should.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister has spoken about the process and the reviews and trying to put that which went wrong right. That is to be supported. But he's also asking the House and the Country.
Hello.
Notwithstanding a front-page media splash that Peter Mandelson has failed the vetting process, that there is nobody in number 10 or in any government department that even thought to say, is there any truth in this? Could I have a briefing on that? We need to knock this story down. If nobody asked, that is the shameful thing. And if nobody asked, does it not say to the Prime Minister that the operation of his government, which seems to be process, strategy, review, never mind what, is not sustainable and is not welcomed by the country at large?
In answer to his question, the FCDA was repeatedly asked in light of inquiries. The same answer came back because a clear decision had been taken that this information was not going to be disclosed. And it wasn't disclosed to me, let alone to anybody else. So yes, repeatedly the FCDA was asked, the same answer came back as the answer was given to me. The decision was that I wasn't to know and nobody else was to know. That was wrong.
Joe Whitelaw,
Can I say that on this side of the House at least, to my honourable friend, many will appreciate his apology today. But many of us will remain bewildered still why that appointment took place, despite the warnings that many of us gave him. And isn't the reality this? That when he sought to realise his ambition to become leader of the Labour Party, with very little base within the party, he became dependent on Max Green and Mandelson and Labour together to organise, fund his election. And then when he became Prime Minister, the reward for Max Green was control of number 10, and for Mandelson, the highest diplomatic office. And the message, the unspoken message to civil servants was, what Mandelson wants, Mandelson gets. This has damaged the party that I've been a member of for 50 years. I urge him to take steps to clear this toxic culture out of our party and take the first step by having independent inquiry to labour together.
Mr. Speaker, can I just deal with what's the half that question in relation to an unspoken message to civil servants? I don't accept that, Mr. Speaker. It is simply not good enough on a question of national security where clearance, the recommendation is clearance be denied, for anyone, particularly senior civil servants, to do anything other than provide me with the relevant information, and that is what should have happened in this case.
Sir Jeremy Wright. Prime Minister has been very clear about his view of the urgency of his response since he learned of this vetting information. So I want to ask him about the events of last week. He will know that the Intelligence and Security Committee asked for any information relevant to vetting to be supplied to it in the first tranche of information we were to consider. We didn't receive anything about vetting at that time. The Prime Minister has told us now that on Tuesday evening, he became aware of the information he has set out. But the Intelligence and Security Committee was not told about the existence of that information. Information the Prime Minister must have recognised was within the terms of the humble address and would need to be supplied to the ISC. We were not told by his officials about the existence of that information until Thursday, after it had been published, its existence had been published in the Guardian newspaper. So I'm bound to ask the Prime Minister this: if that information's existence had not been disclosed by the press, would we have been told about it? And if so, why did the ISC have to learn of its existence from the Guardian and not from the government?
Thank you for his question, and the answer is yes, it would have been provided to the committee. I think, as he acknowledged, it has now been provided to the committee. The reason for the delay is on Tuesday night, I found out simply that the recommendation had been made to deny clearance, and yet clearance had been given. I wanted to understand who gave that clearance, on what basis, and who knew about it, so I could update the House and obviously make the information available to the committee, and that's what I asked on Tuesday night my officials urgently to do, so that the full picture could have been put before both the House and the committee, and I'll make sure that the full picture is put before the committee.
Alistair Struther. Mr. Speaker. Many of my constituents who might be appalled that someone who portrays not just our country but every single victim of JFC was able to serve in such a prestigious position. Whatever the judgment in the security vetting file, that decision to appoint him was wrong, and I welcome the Prime Minister's owning an apology for that moment. But many of my constituents are also might be concerned to learn that not a single democratically elected official in government was informed about that decision. Given this, what undertakings is the Prime Minister instigating right across government to ensure that in the future it's our democratic decision makers who put in the full picture of these crucial judgments?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him? And Mr. Speaker, that is precisely why I've asked for the entire developed vetting process to be reviewed by Sir Adrian Fulford, and I've made it absolutely clear to this House and to the civil service that my strong view is that the information that was not provided to me could have been provided and should have been provided.
Thank you, Speaker. The Prime Minister wants us to focus on process and not his judgment. But this entire episode is the direct result of his decision to make a direct appointment to one of the most senior roles in the FCDO of somebody who was wholly inappropriate for the role. So can the Prime Minister at least confirm to the House that this was a singular error of judgment and that his number 10 operation has not proposed political appointee for any other senior role in the FCDO?
In relation to the decision, yes, it was my decision. It was an error of judgment. That's why I've apologised to victims of Epstein. I've done it again today, and I have right to do so. In relation to the second point of this question, whether any other political appointments, I will have to just check on that and get back to him made, there were very many appointments made to senior positions, and I will just check that for you.
Mr. Speaker, the House and the public understand the importance of independent security vetting and why sensitive personal information must be protected, but they are also shocked that decisions of such significance could be taken without the knowledge of the Prime Minister. I have worked closely with the Prime Minister and know how seriously he takes national security and accountability to this House. So can the Prime Minister set out what steps he will take to remove any ambiguity? So where there are serious concerns, those risks are flagged to ministers, ensuring that accountability to this House and to the country is always upheld.
Right, question, Mr. Speaker. That is why last week the Chief Secretary removed suspended the power of the FCDO to make a recommendation or to take a decision contrary to the recommendation of UK SB.
Sir David Dick. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has twice remarked, both the Leader of the Opposition, then the Leader of the Liberal Democrats, when they said that the main Cabinet Secretary's advice to the Prime Minister was to get the clearance before the announcement. So I'm going to read in one sentence from a document entitled Options for Washington.
See you later, people.
Cabinet Secretary